If you're a white belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and your coach is not teaching you leg locks, might be time to find a new school. Why do I say this? A lot of people in the Jiu-Jitsu community seem to be under the assumption that leg locks are a dangerous submission that you shouldn't learn or even practice until you have a blue belt at the bare minimum. I disagree. First of all, straight ankle locks are legal almost at every single adult white belt competition that exists, and straight ankle locks are leg locks. But let's talk about why people think they're so dangerous and why it's important to learn them starting as a white belt. When you compare a leg lock submission, especially something like a heel hook, to an armbar or a choke, there's some major differences. First, with the choke, oftentimes it can be painless and you could put someone to sleep and they're okay. Other times it can be quite painful if they're really driving into your throat or other parts of your neck and it's a big struggle. But at the end of the day, it's a very safe move to practice. Most situations with that move result in a simple tap and nobody gets hurt. With an armbar, it's different, but when the arm gets extended, people have a very good understanding of how far out your arm can go, and when it gets to this point, you should give up because it's danger. On top of that, when your arm starts extending a little bit beyond that point, you have pain, you have warning systems going off in your brain, and your arm is able to hyperextend a little bit and without accruing like super serious, major, terrible damage. When it comes to a heel hook, when that submission is applied, it oftentimes won't hurt until after damage has started happening, especially if there is a high pace or there's adrenaline. Also, there are incorrect defenses, such as spinning in the incorrect direction, which will essentially destroy the leg if the person just stays tight on the submission and doesn't let go. So if someone is not skilled enough, they could potentially not only not do the correct thing to get out, but do the wrong thing, which would end up getting themselves hurt. Then, if they do the correct thing, and maybe they're trying to defend, it oftentimes won't hurt until after damage is going to happen. So you'll be practicing and practicing, doesn't feel like it hurts, and then the next day your leg or your knee will be sore. It's not good. It keeps people off the mats. But why am I advocating for white belts to train these leg locks? Because there's a safe way to do it, and like all submissions, you're going to have to tell people precautions, give them the pros and the cons, but you have to start the awareness at the white belt level. And you can do this by straight ankle locks. You can get into the basic ashigarami position and go into some variations off of that. That's legal as a white belt. Then if you want to play with the dark arts, grab an upper belt and ask them how to do a heel hook. Practice some heel hooks, inside, outside, however you want to do it. Learn how it feels to have your leg extended in those positions and how it feels to extend someone's leg in those positions. And having more awareness of the positions in general will allow you to keep yourself safe, because there are things that you can do to defend leg locks correctly without incurring damage and not tapping and getting to a better position. So you're never going to develop that if you don't learn where not to be, you don't learn how to apply it. So how do you train this safely? As a white belt, I would suggest starting with straight ankle locks, because that is a submission much more similar to the armbar in that there is a bit of hyperextension that can happen without accruing major damage. It'll start to hurt, because it's a straight ankle lock and it puts pressure on your Achilles or calf depending on where you're applying. And it's legal, so you can win with that. But don't be afraid to practice with the upper belts and let them try to work their heel hooks on you, because they're, especially if they're rolling with a white belt and you say, hey, can we can roll with heel hooks, but just, take it easy, man, white belt. The upper belt's going to get you in the position, and hopefully if they're smart, they'll just, you'll tap if they catch it, or, hey, can you just show me, okay, that's how far it goes, tap, okay, good. And then you know exactly how far you can defend. If you want, you can say, hey, let me play around with defending from here, maybe try to grab an arm or point your toes or roll your knee, or, I don't know, stand up. Do something to try to defend it, and you'll get better. You got to start this as a white belt. You don't have to, but Dude, if you get into the blue belt division, and there have been people who've been practicing leg locks and heel hooks and all this stuff since they were kids, or early on in their white belt career, you don't want to be that guy who taps very early to leg locks because you're afraid of them. It's another game. It's a whole nother system. And when I was an early blue belt, I really had to make the investment in understanding that whole side of jiu-jitsu. But it's worth it because, yeah, there are people who are becoming real killers with leg locks. So even if you're a white belt, you should be training leg locks. If you like the content, like these rants, support the channel by leaving me comments about jiu-jitsu or other things you want me to talk about. Peace.